Gen that was. The gen that was.
The gen that was.
The gen that was.
The gen that was.
This is the gen that was.
Hey everybody, Ben here. Quick note before we start the episode, I stupidly forgot to record the Zoom call, so in part 1, you won't see our faces, you'll just hear our voices talking over B-roll. You will see our faces in part 2, and I am very sorry about that mistake. Hello and welcome back to the Gen That Was. This time we're discussing 2014. We actually have quite a lot to talk about. A lot happened in 2014. Joining me on this special episode is Brandon Jones.
Hi.
Michael Huber.
Hello.
And Bradley Ellis.
Yo.
I had forgotten how much had happened in 2014, and I think one of the joys of doing the show is going to be like, oh, yeah, right, oh, that was huge.
Totally.
And just to give you an idea of what the show is, a quick recap if this is your first time watching, or if you've forgotten since the last time you've seen this. In building up to the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, this show will cover every single year of the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One from 2013 all the way to 2020, with each year being a separate episode. In the first part, we're going to talk about significant events that relate to either the PlayStation or Xbox in some way, or at least the games that you can play on them. In the second part, I will select 5 games for us to talk about and go over in greater detail. And in the third part, we put our memories to the test and we actually play one of the 5 games that we talked about. For the first part, we've got a whole, it's like peaks and valleys. So let's get right into something that I didn't remember, is that PlayStation Now was announced in January of 2014. To give this a little bit more context, Sony bought Gaikai, the cloud gaming service, in 2012 for $380 million. I think one of the benefits of doing this show, right, is we're not currently in 2014. We can kind of look back on it and talk about some things that have launched and where they are now. And that's kind of what I want to do for PlayStation Now, is what has been your opinion of the service? Do you think it's lived up to its full potential? Do you think it has evolved significantly over time?
This is great, Ben.
Yeah.
Ben, last year was the first time I tried PlayStation Now. I, for the first time, cracked it open in 2019.
So what made you wait so long?
I just didn't have need for it, you know,
Sure.
being as obsessed with video games as we are, and this is our job and stuff. You know, I have more games than I'll ever need. Just never really needed the service. You know, I have PS Plus and stuff, getting free games all the time. So didn't really need it. But what pulled me in was Batman Arkham Origins. There's no remaster of Batman Arkham Origins. So I was like, oh, just, you know, I'll try it through PS Now. And it was horrible. It was so bad. Here we are years and years after this launch, and it was pretty much unplayable. So I made it, I think, 20, 30 minutes.
Are we talking, when we say horrible in regards to streaming service, are we talking about like compressed video? Are we talking about input latency? Are we talking about
latency
just
and latency and frame rate, just so off, so bad. Just again with a game like that, just unplayable. Like out of combat, just hiccuping, in combat, stuttering, and just input delay. So I gave it about 20, 30 minutes, and then that was it. That was my experience with PS Now. I ended up just getting it on Steam, playing the PC version.
Yeah, man. I've tried. I actually am currently subscribed to PlayStation Now, and I've tried it with different things over the years, and it's at best just been okay. It's never been like, oh man, you know, I'm happy to play the game this way. Like I can always just tell like a huge visual downgrade streaming the games over just playing them natively. And something that you can do that they did add to PlayStation Now is you can download PlayStation 4 games and they don't have very many, but the PS2 games that are on there, but not PS3 games. And I think that's kind of the weird thing for me with PS Now is I think a lot of the stuff that I would want to play is on PS3, stuff that I missed, and I wish I could download it. And I just run into this all the time with PS Now, where it's like, well, they don't have a huge selection of a lot of the stuff that I'm interested in, and I can't download PS3 games, and it's just like it's probably not the service for me, but that actually makes it hard for me to evaluate fairly. Like, I don't want to sit here and trash it, because it's like I could see if you got a PS4 way later and you didn't kind of play a lot of those games as they came out, getting a PS Now subscription and being able to download those games, I imagine, would be pretty beneficial.
My opinion of PlayStation Now has not changed, moved an inch the whole time PlayStation Now has been out. This is like handy to have these things around. Worst possible playing experience of any of these things. I mean, no question. Dude, I played Red Dead on that thing. Because I played Red Dead, I played Red Dead when it first came out. I played it again immediately after, like a year later.
Do you like Red Dead?
Red Dead Redemption, yeah. I got a bit of a cowboy fetish. And then it was right before Red Dead 2 came out, and I'm like, I need to have that taste in my mouth, like I just need to get a sense of it, just a whiff of Red Dead 1. And I was like scared. I was like looking out the window like, I don't want anybody to see me doing this. Like this is not the way to experience that game for the first time. It's a great way to get like recap on it. But when I first got PlayStation Now, it was in October. Speaking of being in October now when we're recording this. So I played Siren for the first time. I played, there's just a lot of old, I think Manhunt was on there or something. There was just a lot of old, weird, obscure horror games that I was like 15 minutes of, perfect. Like that's exactly how much I wanted to play. Plus you have something like Katamari Damacy, which was like, yeah, it's framey and it's, compressed, but this isn't really, I can still kind of cut through this and just appreciate the gameplay of it.
Sure. So
it's kind of like a Hulu for me. It's like, I'll get it for a show, but like maybe while I'm there, I'll check out some movies and then, a month or two later, I'm out. But I don't necessarily regret my experience with it as long as I understand what I'm going into. Because, the moment you said Arkham Origins, I was like, oof. A really dark game with a really fast-moving character.
Yeah, rough.
Not a good PlayStation Now experience.
Do you guys have any expectations or hopes or interest in PS Now as we go into the PS5?
The thing I would want from it is it to be more along the lines of Game Pass, of just being able to download a bunch of games. I don't personally have any interest in streaming games because I don't have, like, NASA internet or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I would not get full advantage of the product, but if they made it so there's just a bunch more games I could download, then that'd be much more appealing to me.
Yeah, if they went all in on it and had, PS1, 2, 3 classics that you could download and play, that would be ideal. I don't see them doing that. I don't see them committing that hard to it. But if I could wish and hope for something, that would be it. Moving
on, though, is a topic that there's no way. This one's very difficult because there's no way we can't not talk about it. It's so important, and it means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot probably to all of you. But at the same time, it's like, what else is there to say? And that is PT was shadow dropped during Gamescom 2014. I'm sure almost everyone watching this is familiar with what PT is, but just to give it a quick rundown, it was a collaboration between Kojima Productions and Guillermo del Toro, and it was this sort of brilliant and obscure horror game where the internet kind of had to get together to solve the puzzles and figure out what was going on, and then once you solve the puzzle, you get a teaser for a game called Silent Hills, obviously part of the Silent Hill franchise, that would be starring Norman Reedus. And I think it's fair to say that PT is one of the most terrifying video game experiences of all time. Just how realistic it looked, how it approached horror with repetition and leaving you on edge, and how how the hallway constantly changed. But this is all stuff that is really well known about PT. I guess, do you guys feel like you have anything to say or anything to reflect on regarding PT? Anything that you miss or you think was followed up on in an interesting way?
I could talk about my experience with it. When this came out, I didn't even know it existed or really anything like that. Mike texted me one time when I was at work or something, and he's like, "Hey man, download this thing called PT and just play it." I had no idea what I was getting into.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I just booted up this game. Like, what the hell's going on? And it just turned into some weird horror game. Then later I found out it was like a Silent Hills, like prelude almost.
Brad,
it was like an insane moment of the internet collectively like joining hands to solve this mystery of what this game was. Like a brief, beautiful moment in time of everyone working together.
no one knew it was Silent Hills at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And that was what was crazy about it. Is I remember we watched Gamescom and no one really thought anything of it. And like Huber and Elise were just like, oh, we're just going to go check this thing out. And they did. And then just kind of the slow realization. It was just a beautiful, like, jaw hitting the floor revelation once that teaser came out. And
it,
Yeah, because we didn't beat it.
yeah.
The internet
And
had
it's
to
just
solve it later.
Kojima, you're like, what?
Oh yeah, there was that stall because we all like were so excited, and then just none of us could finish it. So we were like, "Is that it? Do we not? Have we not done it? Like, surely there's got to be something else." So then you have like, you know, IGN talking to Games Radar, talking to GameSpot, talking to, you know, like, what did you do? Have you done anything? You know,
Right.
Everybody wanted to have like their win.
Answer the phone and then spin in 3 circles
Yeah.
clockwise,
Yeah.
and
Right.
then walk down the hall, and then
I think the big thing for me looking back, Ben, is that it's free. This is
Yeah.
a free game. You know,
now you have to go on eBay and buy a
No,
PS4.
I mean, it's impossible now. It's priceless now. But
Yeah.
at the time, it was like the big thing. The reason why there was no barrier to be in it. If you weren't playing this game, it's because you just didn't care. You know, you just weren't
Right.
really interested. But it's it's just one of like Kojima. Kojima's made some great games, but his marketing plays are my favorite of anything.
Yeah.
You know, that he's done in his career. Like all of these different, just to keep doing it again and again and again and again. And to put this much work into something that might not have even, didn't pan out into a full game and might not have been something that really incentivized people. That's a lot of work to go into. It's a lot of staff, a lot of time to develop something like that.
You mentioned about the marketing, Brandon, and as I was reflecting before this episode, thinking about PT, and it's something I've talked about a lot in my life, but I think my biggest disappointment is thinking back on PT, that really felt like a next-gen moment. And what I mean by that sounds like such a gross buzzword, but what I mean by that is it felt like it was pushing video games forward in the sense that it understood how the internet worked and how to capitalize on that and how to kind of create this impromptu online community and get people talking. Like, it was a very social experience. It was something that you wanted to talk about on social media. It was something that you wanted to look up YouTube videos on. And it just felt like it was perfectly designed and in tune with like how we were communicating in a way that like I had never quite experienced with a game before. And I think the thing that's really disappointing to me is no one's really taken that ball and run with it in the same way. I there hasn't been anything that has felt kind of like that audacious in terms of its release or that kind of like zeitgeisty when it came out. And you've gotten horror games that have clearly been influenced by the style of PT. And I think, it further popularizing first-person horror for sure. But a lot of that is like gameplay and style and not necessarily like how it released and the conversations that it spawned.
Well,
Do you
it's
think
like-
that's because PT casts like such a long shadow and it's like trying to do that just wouldn't come across authentically?
I think it's just lightning in a bottle, man. Like, I'm noticing now with like Haunting of Hill House and Bly Manor, I notice people like chasing things, like chasing the scares or like chasing the moment, and like not like you were saying, the games have tried to imitate it, but nothing really captured that moment because it was a moment in time. It was a special moment, and you're probably not gonna recapture that. It was just so unique, so all the stars had aligned, no one knew what it was, and now like when people try to replicate it, it's just a clone or a knockoff, or they're trying to pay tribute rather than surprise. Like, the surprise is gone, so it's going to be really hard to chase that, like, oh my god, what am I playing? What is this? Like, that is a nigh impossible feeling to capture.
I want more things to do that, I guess. I want more horror experiences, and I maybe it's just nostalgia, but I think what I always appreciated was growing up and having Resident Evil and Silent Hill and feeling like they were two different sides of the same coin, where they were kind of filling me up horror-wise, but they were so different, even though, Silent Hill was obviously kind of kickstarted by Resident Evil and the success that it had. And it just seems like this whole PT thing just seems like a gross, disgusting missed opportunity.
True. There also is kind of an eerie beauty to this game being it. It's hard to get, it's hard to download. People have accidentally deleted it. You can't get it back.
Ring, dude. VHS.
It's just announced you can't transfer it to PlayStation 5. Allegedly, it's just the infrastructure doesn't work. So it's just cursed to be on this one system. It's very claustrophobic. You're stuck in this house. You beat it, and you see Ritas walking on the street, and it's this inviting of you finally made it out. Let's go explore. Nope, back in the hallway. There's something kind of. It's tragic, but it's also beautiful, and it's in a strange way. The way the story is, the way that this murder had happened, you're hearing echoes of things, and to me, the game is haunted. That's the way I feel about it, because it is a game, but it's not. It's teasing a game that never happened. It's talking about events that were in the past, but was teasing something that was going to happen in the future. So when I play that game, it literally feels. It's like when I watch The Ring. It's like this is a cursed project. This is just a weird, just a funk around the whole thing feels like. That's wonderful. If you're into horror. It's
Such a moment in time.
That stuff is so rare. It's in all the horror I've consumed, it hits highs that are, and that's why we were talking about Resident Evil 7 and we weren't talking about it now, is because we were so hungry. We were like, are they? It was its own fun thing, but it's nothing will ever be like PT. I don't think.
I think that you talk about the highs of PT, and I think it's because it is an experience where it feels like truly anything can happen. I think one of the downfalls of horror, and you get this in horror games as well, is they may be effective in scaring you one way, but you get used to how they scare you. You get used to things jumping out. You get used to fighting the same monsters over and over again.
RE3. It's I played a game 8 times. I had it memorized, yeah.
Yeah, and with PT, that initial playthrough, I think a lot of the fear was this game can and will do anything to me. I miss that sensation so much.
It's just that unknown, man. That new IP. It's like Phasmophobia right now blew up because it's what is this? What is this game that everyone's talking about? I want to see. Whereas, like I was saying earlier, just so many imitators out there, and it's there's something magical and special about a horror game that you don't know what you're getting into when you boot it up. That is a powerful feeling.
Also happening this year, Microsoft acquired Mojang for $2.5 billion.
Damn, dude.
Worth it.
Minecraft money, yeah. Worth it.
And I think this is definitely something that paid off, because the continual relevance of Minecraft is staggering. So Minecraft sales, this is an article from May 2020. Minecraft sales have topped 200 million, 126 million playing monthly. Also, there's been a surge of Minecraft play during COVID. In April 2020, they saw a 25% increase in new players and a 40% increase in multiplayer sessions. In 2020, Minecraft.
New players.
Wow.
Kind of a crazy concept to think of people being like, Minecraft, what's this?
New kids.
Yeah.
Does Nintendo pay Microsoft then for Smash Bros? Who gets money there? Who gets paid?
They probably get a cut of it.
Little
Maybe.
slice of the
I'm
pie?
not sure
Yeah.
how that works.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned Smash Brothers here, and it's interesting because I still don't really associate Minecraft with Microsoft, like that connection. It's not like
Sure.
Halo and Xbox to me. It's not that
Yeah.
strong, because Minecraft still appears on a bunch of other stuff. Like you can go and play Minecraft
On everything,
on the Switch
pretty much.
right now, and so it's not something that they've super locked down, but I'm sure they're benefiting from, obviously, just because of the astronomical popularity.
Do you know what always jumps to my mind, Ben, every single time I think of Mojang and Microsoft, is the HoloLens demonstration where the Minecraft map came up out of the table.
Oh
and
my
we were
God.
Like, whoa! We can look inside HoloLens. It's gonna be sweet. That's it. But they were excited. That was one of the first things, I think, after they had acquired it. But Minecraft's not going anywhere. And I think Minecraft's a great example of something because I feel like having gone through so many different generation shifts, this is hands down the most, even if we're still talking about frame rate and HDR and lighting and shadows and reflections and all that stuff, I definitely still feel that visuals are like just a very small part of what people are anticipating and talking about around like this new gen. And Minecraft's such a great example. It's just like, who cares? Like, yeah, they still upgrade the engine and there's like all sorts of patches and mods and stuff you can do to Minecraft. But it's like, if this many millions and millions of people are consistently playing this game, visuals are just not so much of an important driver, I think, with in terms of at least executives, at least people at Microsoft deciding like what to spend their money on. Because it's just something people are going to. Same thing with Fortnite. It's just like, visuals aren't that important really compared to the jumps we've seen.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Minecraft is something that I think has changed video games forever. Where the reason why you see, I think, people sticking with it is because you can make that game whatever you want it to be. Mm-hmm. Like the amount of ways that you can play it and enjoy it and the flexibility it has really, I think, spawned that longevity. Like, there have been a lot of Twitch streamers recently who've just been trying to speed run the game, and then they've been competing with each other, and I love that. I feel guilty. Like, I've played Minecraft, but it was never something that I got like obsessed with or was ever an expert of, and I feel like I missed kind of like this monumental video game moment that I just like wasn't as on top of it.
Minecraft is one of those games where I got into it and then was like, all right, I'm done. And I was out for like 6 months and then right back in. And like, there was some update or something. They're like, do you hear they have like cows now? Or something? It was just like, you'd hear some dumb thing. I'd be like, well, okay, fine. I'll re-download it and jump back in. I think it happened 4 times. There were like 4 like gens of me with Minecraft. And even they were like I almost happened again. Like when it came out on phones, I was like, sure. And I'm just like, this sucks. I'm not playing Minecraft on mobile. This is lousy.
Every time I try to play Minecraft on mobile, I'm like, nah, this is not how I want to control this.
But you just make your own goals, completely. And so it's fun in that way. It's aside from all the multiplayer fun stuff that they do and just the general charm of the look of the game, just the fact that you not only can you make stuff of it, but you have to decide what the hell you're going to do with your time and why. The game didn't have an ending for like 3 years.
I've never played it actually, ever.
That's awesome.
And when it came out, I'm like, I have this boomer mentality of like, well, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What's my goal? Like, what's my objective? I like that. But over time, I've been more like into the idea of like, you can just kind of do whatever in this game if you want. So it's something I want to try out. I just haven't gotten the chance to.
I remember being just really bad at building. Like when it's aimless, wandering in a game, I'm not good. I'm goal oriented. I need something to do.
You need like
Boomer
a
mentality.
Brandon Jones Sherpa to be like, okay, this is our house.
I'm really bad.
You focus on that part of the house.
And usually too, like my goals are so small. Like I build a little 1-room house with like a bed and a sink, and it's like, all right, game over, I win. I'm content.
Hubert, Hubert's like, this is all I need. Minecraft, leave me alone.
Minecraft, yeah, you did it.
In less good news for Microsoft, Halo: The Master Chief Collection launched in a pretty miserable state in 2014.
Oh yeah,
in 2014.
In 2014,
still going.
Yeah, there were a lot of matchmaking issues. And Bonnie Ross even actually came out and officially apologized. And that December, they offered like sort of this apology gift where they're like, hey, we'll give you 1 month of Xbox Live Gold, an in-game nameplate, an in-game avatar. You're going to get the ODST campaign for free and a Halo 2 anniversary map for free. But as we discussed in the last episode, I think Microsoft had a really rough console launch with kind of the way their messaging was handled, and then the next year to have the Master Chief Collection debacle is so rough. And it's such a bummer because I remember really enjoying and getting a lot out of the Master Chief Collection, and I love this idea of taking all 4 of these games, and not just taking all 4 of these games, but you get the Halo Anniversary Edition of that, and you get Halo for this collection. Like, they didn't just put this stuff together and allowed you to play all the multiplayer, played, but they also did an anniversary edition of Halo 2 with new cutscenes and all this stuff. And so I felt like there was so much there, and Halo's a great series to do it with. It's just a shame that
they're
it was handled this way.
arguably their biggest IP. They just like botch. Like that sucks. Especially a multiplayer focused game like that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's the campaigns and stuff, but a lot of people are hopping in to just play the multiplayer.
A remaster. The
and it's just
return
like,
of something that doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that hurts
Exclusive,
too.
proprietary,
Yeah,
like,
it's not. It's like
flagship
not a new
franchise.
campaign or anything like that. It's like you've played this before.
I think this was the first major kind of like universally panned moment for Halo, because I remember Halo 4 being divisive, but it wasn't like this. It wasn't like this complete botch, right?
Right.
Do you think this did a lot of damage to the Halo name? Do you think it recovered pretty well afterward?
I think it did damage, but recently I feel like it's recovered. They just added 3, right, to Steam.
Yeah.
And Damiani and I played through 2. I think 1 also, but we played through like Halo 2 on Steam co-op. So 5 years, 6 years later,
Yeah.
I think maybe it kind of evened itself out.
At the time, Ben, I think it was a disaster for them. But over time, I think just 4 and 5 itself kind of hurt the series more than that game. Like, yeah, people had problems playing the game at the time, but
it's
people
not like
had more
individually
issues.
those games aren't good.
Exactly. I'm saying people had problems with 4 and 5 themselves as games.
Right. It makes me think, because I would love other games to do this that have single player and multiplayer components, to do big collections and let you jump between them. And I think there's a lot of potential there. Do you think just with the botch of the Master Chief Collection that other companies are afraid to tackle something this ambitious?
Maybe. It's like how many companies have like a library like that they could do that with, though? A series, you know?
Hitman.
Like Hitman, yeah.
They've
But you
done
don't have to
that
worry
with those
about
games, yeah. I mean,
multiplayer
it's-
as much, or like
Right.
server things like that. It's like maybe Call of Duty could do something like that, but I don't know if they would even want to do something like that.
It was interesting going back and replaying Left 4 Dead a couple times recently, and how those two games kind of bled together. You know, like it's now just like a package that you can buy on Steam. You know, and like you get all the levels at the same time. But I remember going into Master Chief Collection and like initially being flummoxed. I was like, whoa, what's happening? Like I can pick what maps I want to be in, what playlists or whatever. Yeah, it's a very big operation. I am being reminded as of the recording of this show that part of the uphill battle that Infinite is facing right now is because of this. I was like, whoa, I thought it was all 5, but no, it's I think they can do it. I'm excited for Infinite, but and like Huber said, they've come around on this, but
At this moment specifically, I think Xbox needed a Halo-size win, and
Yeah,
it was
totally.
another mark against them.
Because this was when 343 was gone too, right? Or sorry, Bungie.
Yeah.
This was post Bungie,
Yeah, this was
so
post-Bungie.
it's
Yeah.
like newer
4
studio.
was also
had-
post Bungie.
big
Yes.
Halo launch year after a new Xbox console. Fingers
Yeah.
crossed. Hopefully history doesn't repeat itself in
Right.
2021.
But that's what I've got for the first part, just kind of giving you some context for what happened in 2014, some things that I thought were interesting that I wanted to talk about with the panel. In the next part 2, we'll be looking at 5 games from this year that I'm excited to talk about. All right, everybody, welcome to part 2 of the Gen That Was, where we talk about 5 different games. And the first game that we're going to talk about is one that I don't really think about much anymore, and that is Shadow of Mordor. And when this game came out in 2014, it won Game of the Year. People were ranting and raving about it, but I just don't feel like the hype around Shadow of Mordor, or this series in general, is the same as what it was back then. What did you guys think of Shadow of Mordor in 2014, and have your thoughts changed over time?
I will say, never really loved the Nemesis system. Never got the hype for the Nemesis system. I know that's one of the big things of this game. Never really didn't, I just remember that being like, oh my god, this is going to be in every video game now. Like, every series is going to copy this. And I thought it was neat. I thought it was cool. But it's a game designed for you to be a god. You are so OP in this game that rarely would I die to the same, not to say I'm good or anything, but rarely would I die to the same orc over and over to create these rivalries. Like, it just wouldn't happen. You're so powerful in this game. You just steamroll everyone. So I can remember kind of being disappointed with that, thinking it was kind of like overrated, overhyped. But I did really like the game, especially for a first effort. It had me hopeful for the future of this series.
I almost feel the exact opposite, where I think the Nemesis system was one of the cooler ideas. I love the concept of you failing or dying to somebody and then them remembering it and being like, hey, didn't I kill you before? Or just being able to influence them, or having, you know, the things that you're hunting be named figures with their own strengths and weaknesses. I think that's a really cool idea. And I think it's something that could be greatly expanded upon. I think the thing that hurts Shadow of Mordor for me, at least my memory of it, is it was the Nemesis system basically coupled with this Batman Assassin's Creed hybrid. Like, it was kind of uninteresting gameplay that I was already very familiar with at that point, mixed with this brand new novel system.
I'm a big fan of this universe, so I was just excited to get a AAA Lord of the Rings universe game. I didn't feel like it reached its full potential, but I thought it, like you said, also it was a very good start for a new series.
Brandon, as somebody who reviewed this game, I remember you liking it quite a bit, and one of the reasons I wanted you to be on this episode was to talk about this game, because Shadow of Mordor to me seems like perfect Brandon bait.
Sure.
Just in terms of like having a world to explore, objectives to do, messing around with the Nemesis system.
Actually, the context for the world was one of the, not necessarily one of the reasons why I was excited about the game, because like I get a little nervous. I think the sequel to this, you know, suffered from that, where you're like, whoa, Shelob did what? They're really kind of stretching, you know, these characters. But I really liked the relationship between this phantom, this ghost of memory,
Celebrimbor.
and Talion. And I thought they had just an interesting back and forth, that he's kind of always in your head. And it's funny, Huber, that you say the effectiveness of the Nemesis system is basically based on difficulty. And I think my skill level was just under yours. I remember, like, Huber, I remember coming into work and being like, I had the most thrilling fight where I had to get this guy, and then I finally tracked him down and I finally killed him. And I was like, yes. And I remember you were like, yeah, this game's not hard for me. And I was like, well.
Well, Mr. Pro Gamer.
I'm sorry.
No, you can't be responsible for how well or how much it happens all the time. We're just like, this game is, that game wasn't difficult for me, or like Sekiro I really had a problem with, and so that like affected my enjoyment of it. But when I would die in this game, it was like, no, like I was upset for reasons I had never been upset before in a third-person action game or an open world game, where it's like, now I got to deal with that guy. Now when that guy shows up, I'm going to be like, yeah, okay, yeah, just, laugh it up, but now I'm definitely going to get you the second time. And I hadn't felt that before in a game, so I thought that was really interesting. And cool. I'm surprised this hasn't been added to anything. As a huge Batman fan, my brain immediately went to Batman, of like, oh my God, if there was a Gotham that operated this way, where like it was just kind of golden age, start from one, everybody gets out of Arkham, and then based on who you prioritize or what you do, like, okay, Two-Face has been out there this whole time, like getting resources. You can do something about that? Like, and I'm surprised just nobody picked this up, and just nobody took a stab at it. I wonder if this was just so crazy complex that it's just like, it's just so obvious what we're copying, and it's just these systems are just more work than we necessarily want to do on a particular game. How
do we have a show where we talk about 2014 games, and we have Michael Huber as a deployee of Easy Allies? How do we not talk about The Evil Within?
Yes.
So, Huber, I almost feel the exact opposite of what I was feeling with Shadow of Mordor, where Evil Within, it feels like it's only like ripening in my mind. Like I miss it so much, and it was a game that is definitely not universally loved by any means. It's not as acclaimed as some of other Mikami's other works, and we can get into that, but. As somebody who was greatly anticipating this game, and you kind of view Mikami as a god, and rightfully so, how has it aged for you?
so well. So well. I absolutely adore this series. 1 and 2 both. They're so different, but they both are so great. Like 2 has kind of this like open world vibe to it. And then 1 is just a little more traditional, a little more linear. And I'm just a sucker for these games, man. These are 2 of my favorite games of the generation without question. It is everything I love about video games, resource management, like a super weird horror sci-fi story. So they've just aged so well, and here we are in 2020, and I still think about them daily. They're on my mind all the time.
Would you take that to the grave? You think about them daily?
Yes,
Okay.
daily.
All right. Brandon and Brad, you're both big survival horror fans, and specifically Resident Evil fans. How did The Evil Within treat you?
Oh, this is the Nightmare on Elm Street game I always wanted. You know, this is a horror game where I truly felt a la like Eternal Darkness and stuff, where it was like, I have no idea what's about to happen. Like, I don't know where this crazy game is going to go. And I really enjoyed 2. I thought 2 had those moments a little less than the first game did. But there were some moments where this game absolutely cranks it to 11, where it's like so crazy intense, in a great Hellraiser way too, where it's like, it's like, and the vibes of come on, Sam Neill, what's the hell is just a word? Event Horizon, where it's like, do you see? It's just this like, this is hard to look at. This is just so crazy intense. It's just a Mortal Kombat nightmare, but still kind of satisfying at the same time. I liked the in a way that actually felt like I could get through it. I'm invested in this world and these characters and getting him out of this gauntlet. But the actual moment to moment gameplay was just like, it's kind of hard to even like playing something spooky from last year like Control. I still like had a sense of kind of how it was going to play out. Or just every time I like got to a door and opened it, it's like, do I want to open this door? I guess I have to. Like. Yeah, not a lot of moments to rest in Evil Within 1.
Was this a post RE6 world?
This is a post RE6 world. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this was like a nice, refreshing kind of taste of what I liked about Resident Evil, like this tension, this survival horror aspect, and then like even like the very beginning of the game, like just hiding in closets, like very, very like different from a lot of Mikami games that I remembered from back in the day. But it had like those creepy environments that I really love about Resident Evil, the good gunplay. And like Joan said, like, I don't know where the hell this game was going to take me. Going through this game, I never knew where we were going to go, what was going to happen. I was invested in the story. This game was just like a heated blanket after a long time, Resident Evil was just like a cold, stiff piece of cardboard that I was laying under. But then this was just like plugged in on the wall bay, and I was getting toasty, nice and comfy.
Hell yeah.
I've said this before, but the reason that you and Brandon both brought up why I like Evil Within 1 more than Evil Within 2 is that sort of like, I don't know what's going to happen. And I think Evil Within 2 in a lot of ways is a better game, and I think it handled kind of more open survival horror very, very well. But just kind of the locations in Evil Within 1 really resonated with me, and it felt like a roller coaster that I was super happy to take part in. And something I want to bring up about Evil Within 1, and I have to wonder if it's part of the divisiveness around this game, and it's not that, I don't want to overstate how divisive this game is, but it, like I said, it doesn't have like the same acclaim as
70 something on Metacritic last time I checked, man.
Yeah, so right,
crazy to me.
Is its commitment to the survival and survival horror.
Yes,
and I think that is something that we just don't get enough of. And I loved running around getting the gel because the upgrades felt meaningful. You needed the health, you needed the stamina, you needed just
matches, baby.
Matches,
burn those bodies.
Right, like do you burn a body, or do you save to save the ammunition, or do you fire away and just setting traps? And I think that is something that I love, making decisions like that in games. I hate in games where it feels like, well, no matter what I'll do, I'll succeed. And just that like, can I get through this? And also, I love the safe room in Evil Within 1.
Claire de
Lune. And going and opening up the saves. I love that aspect as well. And just kind of that feeling, it's the same feeling that a Souls game gives, of just like that moment of peace. I think that
relief.
having that
Right.
amplifies the horror even more in a lot of ways.
And one huge part of horror too is memorable creatures.
Oh,
and
yeah.
this game has a lot, but it has two iconic monsters in Laura. Freaking Laura coming out of the bloody ground and
Crazy,
stuff with
man.
her hair everywhere, and Safehead, who are just two really, really, really memorable, awesome creatures that are a big reason this series for me has lasting power. You know, when I think of Evil Within, like those are two images that come to mind, like that. Those images that are burned in your head are such a important part of horror movies and games.
So Huber, I want to throw some things out there that I think maybe the Evil Within could have done a better job of. And of course,
Sure.
Brandon and Brad, feel free to jump in as well. So Evil Within is actually quite a bit longer than I would say your average horror game. It almost feels like different games at points. Like if you compare it to kind of the village early on versus the city later in the game, I think just in terms of how it handles tension and enemies and that sort of thing, is very different. And on one hand, that's great because it contributes to that anything can happen feeling. But at other times, I think Evil Within can struggle to find maybe a consistent tone or can kind of feel a little bit all over the place in a bad way. Do you think that's a fair criticism?
I think that's fair. Like, I even run into that in, like, RE4 when I
Sure.
think about the places that game goes, like, from the village to, like, the end, you're on this island with, like, a shootout. But I think, yeah, it's definitely a fine balance of, like, you don't ever want to feel like you're doing something, I guess, for too long where it becomes boring. And I could totally see that at the end of Evil Within 1.
Yeah, there's the mansion part, you know, and Ruvik is like chasing you through, and it's kind of like turns into kind of Outlast there for a minute, where it's like,
Right.
you know, if this creature gets you, you're done. And the city is really bright near the end. So yeah, I totally get that criticism. They were finding their footing, and technically when it came out,
Yeah.
had a
That's, like,
little
my
bit
biggest
of-
gripe with that game is its technical performance.
Yeah, but I remember, you know, the divisiveness always for me was two big sticking points. Everyone hated the black bars on the screen.
Dude, I remember that, yeah.
I loved it. Like, whatever. I watch movies in widescreen.
Right.
But I guess someone hacked the PC version and got rid of them, and it's just for show. It's not actually 16:9. Like, you're not getting any extra image on the sides. But I still thought it was visually
Man, that's
cool.
so crazy because that's something like I get, but just doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, I remember it was such a big thing. And then difficulty too. I remember a lot of negative reviews said the game was really, really hard. Difficulty was definitely a big part of that game.
Man, I think again that difficulty and the commitment to survival is a big reason
it.
why I like it. The next game that we're going to talk about is a big Xbox console exclusive. Came out on Xbox 360 as well, and that is Titanfall. Titanfall 1. Lot of hype, lot of anticipation around this game, and I think it's kind of a fascinating game to discuss. A game that I enjoyed. I never got obsessed with Titanfall 1, but kind of an interesting story. The mechanics that it was really prioritizing, the wall running, very huge. The AI grunts that you had populating the battlefield that you could kill to bring down the timer of your Titanfall. The actual Titans themselves, like you could catch rockets in the air and throw them back, and just how powerful you felt in a Titan. So very, very cool game conceptually. What was your kind of anticipation for Titanfall, and how much of it did you play?
Moderate anticipation. Love me some mechs. Love giant mechs squashing people. Played it a good amount, but I'm the type of person who plays through like a story mode usually,
Right.
then moves on to something else. But for like a multiplayer focused game, I did play Titanfall quite a bit.
You mentioned the campaign, and that was something that was kind of controversial about Titanfall. No traditional single-player campaign. There was a campaign in the
Right.
form of multiplayer that you could play through, but not what you normally think of. Of course, Titanfall 2 did have that.
I definitely did want a campaign, though, because I thought the universe was really cool.
Yeah.
And there's a lot they could do with it. You know, you kind of get like hints of it in the multiplayer, and I was like, oh man, I wish they would dived into this a little more. But I thought it was a really good time.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me was the campaign was okay. It was just they were like yelling at you during missions, and a lot of that stuff you had like very specific objectives, and so it's just like, dude, the last 5 minutes I haven't heard a word of what you've been saying.
Yeah.
And like guys will show up, be like, remember me? It's like, nope. Just the difference in feeling of scale between being in a Titan and not being in a Titan. And just running around that world and, looking out of the window of the second story, building and seeing two Titans go at it. Or this was definitely the type of game where like I would love to get the types of kills where something would just get shredded and then barely escape. And then like a Titan would come around the corner and you're right there and you're like, oops, sorry. Like I got all my, all my power ups from my cooldowns ready to go. And you could just lay into something. And the way all of those, pieces collapsed and fell apart when you would blow up Titans. It was a lot of fun. Didn't touch Titanfall 2. One of those campaigns I know. One of those campaigns I regret.
I think you'd really like
go
the
back.
campaign.
I bet I would. I bet I would.
I don't think it's
I've heard
that long
nothing but
either.
good things.
So short.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about Titanfall today, and I feel like Titanfall was like, not that it wasn't a well-regarded game, but I was thinking like if it had changed like a couple of things, it might have been like a mega success. So I do think it being console locked to Xbox platforms, especially kind of with the launch that the Xbox One had, did hurt it for sure. But I also was thinking about Overwatch, and Overwatch doesn't have a single player campaign either, but I feel like the way that Blizzard came out and did those cinematics got you really attached to the characters and kind of got you into their heads. And I feel like Titanfall needed something like that. It needed a better way than what it was presenting to anchor you into the world. And I think it's actually something they improved, of course, with Titanfall 2 and then Apex Legends. But I think that would have helped a lot. I also think with the multiplayer focus, obviously you'd probably have to change some things, but I wonder if it going free to play would have, and of course it's not as simple as just doing that, but I think with a multiplayer focused game, if you would have gone free to play with this new system, if it would have gained even more traction on PC, perhaps. I'm curious what could have been for Titanfall.
Yeah, sure.
Pre-Fortnite, free to play was like weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a death sentence, it seemed like almost.
Yeah.
Free to play? Ugh.
Just the
Now it's like, why isn't that free to play? What the heck?
Right.
You're gonna make me pay for this game?
right. I think if I was saying
Doesn't even have a campaign?
I think if I was saying this in 2014, it would be met with even more animosity, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's just crazy
yeah.
how much our perspectives have changed on kind of these big formats over time. Okay, so the next game I'm going to talk about, we have a double dose of horror on this episode.
Ooh, Evil Within 1 and 2 in 2014. No, I'm just kidding.
Alien Isolation, 2014 game. Really wanted to talk about this because a lot of interesting opinions on it. Huber, I was critical of it. Brandon, you were critical of it. Still enjoyed it, but I know you just like unabashedly loved it, Huber. It's a game I actually revisited recently, and to kind of just set it up, I think it something that it nails, and you can see it in the footage. It just captures the atmosphere of Alien so well. I mean, visually and the audio design are just top notch.
Agreed.
Top notch.
Yeah, I can definitely say for all the criticisms I have of this game visually, and looking at this stuff now, I think it still holds up as one of the best looking games from this gen. Just and not in terms of like you compare it to other sci-fi games and be like, well, I'm playing the sci-fi game that looks better. It's not about better or worse. It's capturing this world. And I've never played something that was captured with this fidelity of me feeling like, damn, I just walked on set. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Like how good this lighting is, how well they handled darkness, you absolutely just have to play this game with headphones on. And I played the whole time I did play. I didn't finish this game, but played it with headphones. And yeah, just the sights and sounds were unparalleled, I think. And horror, sci-fi horror, I think, for this gen. I think this is definitely top tier.
Yeah, Evil Within is something I didn't know I needed until I had it, and Alien Isolation is exactly what I know I wanted. I cannot even believe we got this game. This game is a dream. Aliens means so much to video games and to so many people, you know? Like, Ben, I know Alien's one of your favorite movies of all time.
Yeah.
Jones, we quote it what feels like daily. Aliens will always be my favorite movie of all time. I never see anything topping that. So the fact that we got this game that just lets you play it, you know? It's a video game, it's not a movie, so it's like you are in this situation. Like, we've had AVP games for sure, and you always talk about the Jaguar one, Jones. But this really feels like the movie simulator. Like, you are in the situation. And I know, you know, it's got its problems, especially, you know, people don't like the droids. There's a lot of, like, weird droid combat, and maybe it is a little too long. But with the sights and sounds and how committed this game is, like, manual save slots, like, this game is no joke. It's hardcore, and I love it for that. It is uncompromising.
Huber, you actually brought up an aspect of Alien Isolation that I super respect, and that is if you want checkpoints, you have to survive and get to them. There is not auto-saving. And it makes just like creeping towards them or seeing them, it adds so much. And I really don't think enough games think about saving in interesting ways or making it part of the gameplay. And that's something that I think Alien Isolation nails effectively. You know, we were talking with The Evil Within, that element of survival, and that really comes across here. I love that when you craft, a lot of things that you're crafting, there's shared resources, so you have to really think about what you want. There's a focus on distracting the alien because you're not going to kill it, which is really, really cool. And just my favorite section, I think you're like going to a medical ward, and it's like
classic.
the first. I think it's like the first major encounter that you have with the alien, but I remember that moment in particular just being magical. Like this thing, like hiding in vents or just hunting you. Yeah, and how intelligent the alien was made it truly terrifying. I do think the game is too long. I do think it runs out of steam. I think like the human encounters and the android encounters are just less interesting than the alien, and I think due to the length of the game, the alien kind of loses its wow factor as it goes on a little bit. But with all that said, like I don't want to dog on it because I really want another Alien Isolation.
Oh my god!
Seriously, I think this studio, I think Creative Assembly did enough here. They had enough ideas, and there's enough potential that I would love to see a sequel. I think it's
Shout
really
out to
a shame.
PC Gamer Game of the Year.
They gave it Game of the Year? Nice.
Yep. I'll never forget. Shout out till the end of time. Yeah, a sequel would be amazing, Ben. And I think you nailed all the criticisms. Like removing a couple maybe human and droid encounters and shaving a few hours off of the runtime to really capitalize on the alien and don't have it lose steam, I think would have gone a long, long way.
What about my criticism, Huber? You ready for those? Can you handle
Holy
those?
shit.
No, I agree with a lot of stuff that Ben said. I got bored. I got sleepy. I honestly got like sleepy, Huber, because this was I had a really busy summer. I was like remodeling the house. I remember this summer, and so Amanda and I were sleeping in the garage. And I remember like she would go to bed, and I'd be like, I gotta play this game, and I would like go in the corner, and I'd have headphones on, pitch black. And I would just like get so wrapped up in it.
Proper conditions.
But like at the same time, for every like really tense moment, I would be like, okay, I got this wrench, and now I gotta go and like crank this door. Okay, and now like go up the staircase, and it got to a point where I'm like, it was, but intentional. You know, like it's supposed to the peaks are different from the valleys. It's like gonna be ramping up this tension, and like all you got to do is pierce through that silence with just one of these attacks or just some kind of random variable interaction that you weren't counting on, or even that the developers didn't program. I just hit such a lull, like about 6 or 7 hours into this, that I was like, I'm bored. I'm gonna move on to something else. Like
Jones, I will accept that because I feel like another masterpiece, Dead Space, has a similar thing. It's like these horror sci-fi objectives are all the same. They're all the same. It's you got to get to medical to get this fluid. Oh, comms are down. You got to get to the relay to align the comms.
Yeah, it felt like
so
work.
we can make contact.
Yeah,
it felt like work.
Huber,
Engineering is down. There's a leak, and you got to fix the leak. It's like the same type of objective.
You are absolutely. I just revisited Dead Space on a stream last week. And you're right. The objectives are just that. Like, go fucking fix this
Yeah.
thing or whatever. But what I will say about Dead Space is the pacing is flawless. Like, you don't even care what you're doing
Totally.
because
Doesn't matter.
they fill that space so effectively. Like,
Yeah.
I felt like every room I was going in Dead Space, something was happening, or there was some visual element to pay attention to, or something to listen to, or something to find. Like, I don't think a lot of my favorite horror is slow burn horror. I don't want things to constantly be in my face.
Yes.
But I do think there is a balance where, like, you have to know when to get out, if that makes sense. Okay, so of course, the last game that we have to talk about in 2014, maybe the biggest game in a lot of ways of 2014. There's no way we're getting through this without talking about it. That is Destiny 1, the launch
Whoa! Unexpected.
of Destiny 1. A game that is many, many, many things. Hard to know where to start, but I think it has definitely left an impact on the generation. When I think about like games that kind of define this generation, I definitely think Destiny is one of those, for better or worse, in a lot of ways. Destiny as a multiplayer experience, as a universe, as a story, how did it hit you when it first came out?
Medium.
The story was like, what? Like, there was like, the story was like weak, the campaign, and like you got all the lore through like cards and shit off on like a website.
Yes, that's exactly right. So you collected Grimoire cards in the game.
It was baffling.
And then you had to look them up on the website, which is just terrible. And
it's like, they advertised the game before with like those cutscenes and shit, and they weren't in the game.
Yeah.
Like when it came out, people were just like, where is this stuff you guys showed? I don't know. It was a very baffling. It was a baffling game when it came out. I think there's a lot of great things I liked about Destiny, but I look back on one just wondering kind of what happened in a lot of areas.
Brad, I would be more okay with the Grimoire card style of storytelling if I felt like I was hungry for it. Like if the game maybe be like, oh, I really care about this or want to know more about that. And then I had to go and search out other answers. But like, even watching the cutscenes and trying to pay attention, I just feel like you didn't get anything out of them. And there's a good line from The Stranger where she says, I don't have time to explain why I don't have time to explain. And it's just like, I remember playing Destiny and being like, I want to be invested, and the game is giving me almost nothing.
From a narrative perspective,
just from a narrative perspective, I want to say. And so I feel
You have to work extra hard to get that story in a not fun way. Again, like going online to read some cards. No, I don't want to do that.
The content also felt very, very, very thin. I definitely remember the feeling of like, oh, that's it? Mm-hmm. That's it? Like, I'm done now? Okay.
Yeah, especially after the beta. Mm-hmm. The beta had, a couple missions, and then the final product had some extra ones. It just, you could go through the whole thing in what felt like a weekend. There are two big takeaways from Destiny 1 that I think I remember more than any problems I had with it.
Sure.
And that's the Taken King expansion. Really revitalized that game for me. Really started to plant set the foundation for what Destiny would eventually become. And the raid, the Vault of Glass.
Yeah, that was fun.
I did not raid in Destiny 1. I didn't raid until Destiny 2 with you guys, but
just that is like all I really ever need out of a loot game for me to be fully satisfied is to have your grind be rewarding by having an activity, usually a raid, at the end of it all that you need to really work hard to not only be able to do it all, but then you need to be skilled and good enough to finish it. So it's this double reward of, all right, everything I'm doing is leading me up to this raid. Now I can do it. Victory, yes. And then when you're in the raid, it's like, okay, we got to use our teamwork and our wits and our brains and our skill to get through this.
Yeah.
And I think that is amazing, and it makes a lot of the helium filament grind palatable.
Yeah.
Huber, I think you touched on something that is really essential to Destiny, and for all of the criticism that it faced, it was successful at bringing people together and creating a community. Raids, I think, are probably the premier example of what you were talking about. You already brought that up. But it was other things as well. I think even just something like Xur and figuring out where he is, or like going to the website to figure out where he is and then going to that specific location. Things like the loot cave. That people got excited about and did, or just like kind of obscure like riddles and things, puzzles that people would find, like just the stories that you would hear about Destiny. It almost reminds me kind of like the stories that you'd hear about EVE Online. Destiny was able to kind of create that same sort of mystery surrounding it, and I think that mystery is really essential to its success.
Yeah, like I liked the gameplay of this game when it came out. I thought the shooting was really good and the classes were fun to play as. But what we got when it first came out felt way smaller than what they kind of sold it as.
Big time.
It just felt like you said earlier, this is it.
Yeah.
Like why is this not here? Why is this part so bad? The shooting is great, which is like it has to be, which is arguably one of the most important parts of the game. And there's some cool things, but just this game took a while to get going. And for someone like me, it was too late for me to really come back and invest my time in it.
I think Destiny is kind of indicative, though, and you see this with Destiny 2 as well, of this is a generation of rising and falling for games.
Yeah.
It's no longer do you get a game and either it succeeds and it fails and you move on, right? Like the book is not written. And I think Taken King, as you said, was really where Destiny kind of came into its own and really turned a lot of things around for it. But that happens with so many things. I mean, No Man's Sky, Final Fantasy XIV. It's just Destiny was kind of the beginning of that era to me, where a game wasn't just something that you played and moved on from. I mean, World of Warcraft, yes, but this was something that I think was outside of like specifically an MMO where it's like I need to check in.
Ben, yes, there's something so magical, so electric when everyone is playing a multiplayer game, chasing loot, chasing mysteries, trying to gear up. Like that is so exciting. And like usually I gravitate towards single player narrative games. Like those are probably still my favorite, but those can feel solitary, you know, alone. Like I'm playing this game in my little hole alone. Like there's just something about when a game is in the zeitgeist and everyone is playing it, it makes all your gear seem more valuable. Like if I pick up a piece, it's like now I can show it off. Now I'm catching up to everyone.
Right.
Like I'm going to lead this raid. Like it's just so awesome.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the final part of Gen That Was 2014. We are playing Destiny 1, a game that I don't think I've played Destiny 1 since Taken King. So like 2015, 2016, maybe?
Wow.
It feels
been at least
so strange, Ben, because 2 just kind of replaces it.
I'm thinking about going Titan because I don't think I've made a Titan in Destiny.
Dude,
Do Destiny 1 or 2.
Defender type.
Whoa.
Love XOs.
All right, let's be an
Love
XO. Ben.
XOs.
You know, I like that. Ooh, I kind of like male XO.
Yeah.
Kind of dig that visor.
This is wild.
Not
Bungie.
Not anymore.
Not Bungie first either. That hurts.
Better make us money,
Yeah.
Bungie.
I feel like
Where's my money, Bungie?
it's crazy to think that in 2014 the concept of playing the same activities over and over again for loot was like shocking.
I mean, it was shocking. I think outside of like very specific genres, the idea of doing it
In an MMO is fine.
in like a big mainstream shooter like this, yeah,
Dude, this intro is cool.
I know.
And its arrival.
Oh, this is the Guardian voice guy we always make fun of.
Show no mercy. Deathmatch.
No, that's a different.
That's
is
Shaxx.
it?
Yeah, this is
That's-
Bill. This
yeah,
is Bill
that-
Nye.
Human lifespan.
Bill Nye?
This is not Bill.
No, it's
Nye.
Bill. I don't know how to pronounce it.
It's the speaker.
It's
the
Bill
speaker.
Nighy or whatever. He's a British actor.
Yeah.
was our destiny.
No, that's Bill Nye.
If I asked you, and I'm not going to, don't worry, but if I asked you to give a story summary of Destiny, do you think you could do it?
Not at all.
coherently?
Darkness, light, darkness and light, Traveler.
Yep.
Kingdom
I think
Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts,
That's
yeah.
how I feel. Yeah, I actually do feel very similar. To I feel like
Gummy ship.
I've got like crumbs of it, but I don't have like a super.
And it's
solid
frustrating, Ben, because every time somebody more experienced tells me what's going on, like when I'm playing with allies or the community, and they're like, okay,
You're like,
what's
"Oh, sick."
yeah, they're like, okay, what actually is happening here is this character and this thing and this thing, and it's like, wow, that sounds
Yeah.
awesome.
I really wish. So this is going to be Nolan North, but I wish we could hear Peter Dinklage just to kind of put us back at that time.
Hey, Guardian.
And there's no way to play it without patching it, right? Because it's online. Couldn't just like
I would assume.
yeah.
if
I
like
don't
you
think
put in
so.
your disc.
You know, Destiny does rightfully get a lot of flack for a lack of enemy variety.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a significant problem. But I will say, I like the way a lot of the enemies look.
Me too.
Yeah, they didn't do themselves any favors from a like game intensity perspective. Like their enemies are doing a lot. They got a lot of arms. There's a lot of like effects spinning around them. You know, there's a lot of objects that they have, and so. Yeah, they was it the Vex or like ones with like just the big robot heads? Like those are big complicated things that are just all their parts are constantly twisting around and moving, and I'm sure it's just very intensive, that kind of animation to constantly be happening in an action game. And so I remember this being played by Jason Jones and Joseph Staten at I think the PlayStation press conference. Like it's the first time we actually like, oh my god, we're finally gonna see Destiny. This is cool. And the demo I don't think was that impressive.
Might have been E3.
The beginning of this, yeah.
The demo was very slow. Yeah.
But I remember it was fun because I remember reading like the handbook of Halo, and the Bungie definitely had kind of like a startup vibe. They're like, we really, really want to be a big company. We really have big dreams and aspirations, and like they've certainly realized them. And so it was fun seeing these two friends that, like started this company together, just like on opposite sides of the PlayStation stage, being like, well, here we go. Let's show off this weird game that we've totally made on our own. Just because we made just boatloads of money on Halo.
Expectations are such a big thing too. Like I feel like
They're everything.
I feel
They're
like
everything.
Destiny.
yeah.
The expectations for this game were so high, coming off of Halo
But
and being a brand new IP.
the thing is, you're right. Like no matter what, it's Bungie, right? The creators of Halo. The expectations are going to be sky high. But I feel like the way Bungie spun this game up,
They certainly did.
Sing it, Ben. Sing it.
they raised those expectations for themselves. And even when it was leaking, which that's not them officially announcing it, but it's like, oh, we have this 10-year plan. The way that they spoke about it, it just felt like very like sort of high level conceptual. I don't know.
10-year plan.
Pretty presumptuous.
Yeah, like relax, dude.
Yeah. This mission. They added this to 2 recently.
Why?
Yeah, because Damiani made a new
Yeah.
character, and you like go through
Oh.
this segment.
Wait, they connect the stories from 1 to 2?
Just this mission, I think.
Oh.
It's like a tutorial.
Oh, because I guess your Guardian's still waking up, so you all have the same origin still.
Yeah.
I also just want to shout out Huber and Kyle Bossman because when this launched,
yeah.
I was like, please hustle through as much of this as we possibly can, and like we streamed it all, and I was capturing it all too.
That was
we
so
made a
fun,
day.
though.
We made a day of it.
Faux
and it's,
goth.
Yeah, that's
you know,
cool. That's the way to do it.
Faux
Definitely
God.
one of my, definitely one of those moments where I realized, like, man, I can play anything with you guys. And it just is inherently fun. Like,
Wait, can I not melee with the right stick? That's definitely what I was trying to
Are
do.
you
there.
a bumper
Okay.
bumper jumper?
I don't know what my control scheme is. This is driving me nuts. Let's take a look.
Bumper jumper.
Melee is R1?
Bumper.
I want to click in the stick,
Boom.
dog. Am I a bumper
You are.
jumper?
Yeah,
You are,
that's
Ben.
the mode the scheme you
think
used
so.
in Halo.
You're
Is
a bumper
Yeah,
jumper.
that's where it came from.
I
That's
think
where
that
it
was
came
like-
from.
Yep.
I'm getting confused if that was like a meme placed on me, if I am actually a bumper
It's
jumper.
both.
earned it.
It's both. It is a meme, but you
Okay,
are
okay.
a bumper jumper.
It sounds so derogatory. Like you
Fucking
oh, you
bumper jumper, dude. God.
In like a weird. It's not. It's just a control layout. But
you guys play shooters a lot more than I do. I remember one thing when Destiny 1 came out that I was like, hey, that's pretty ingenious, and I hope they do a good job with it, and ultimately it just wasn't as entertaining as like doing PvP matches, doing raids. But I remember like seeing one of the options that was just like, just go run around. just literally go down to the surface and just get on your bike and just ride around and see what happens. And I was like, that's really clever. Like that could be really exciting to be playing a game where it's like, yeah, you can load up into specific matches, or you can just like head out into the world like an MMO and see what's happening. And my dream of what that could be was never really matched by the game itself.
Yes.
I mean,
no.
Yes, Jones.
But I still think about that. Like, what if you could do that? What if you actually would like, went out into an open world that was constantly changing, constantly dynamic, and like that was the game. There were ways to compartmentalize it, but I think ultimately it's just too expensive, too hard of a project.
Yeah, that's a
You
lot to do.
gotta break it up the way they did.
Because I love public events. That's some of the best stuff
Yeah.
in Destiny is trying to do a public event. People come up, start helping you. All hell breaks loose. That stuff is fantastic. But I think you're right, Jones, where my mind, and it's partly Bungie's fault, probably with marketing, my mind was that it was going to be this huge social space, go down to the surface like you were saying, and just find all these secrets and everything. And it's there, but I think my expectations were a little
It's very
higher.
small
Yeah.
scale.
Yeah.
But it's just the nature of them saying like, this is gonna be unlike any game you've ever played. And so I was like, okay, here's where my imagination is set, Bungie. And in that one instance, it didn't hit it, but.
You know what Bungie is, they're the masters of, that is so important, and they nailed this with Halo with like shooting the grunts and then like popping shields off elites, but feedback when you shoot enemies.
Oh yeah.
So we're fighting the Fallen here, and just when you get a headshot and their head pops off, and that like sound that it makes, it's so good. Like I'm playing level 1 Destiny 1. And I'm having a great time shooting things.
Yeah. How'd that level 2 feel, Ben?
Well, I'll probably never revisit this character again, so good.
Here we are 6 years later, and I still don't think they've nailed the concept of strikes. Strikes were always something that
Aren't they just dungeons?
So now they actually have dungeons, Brad, which are 3-player mini raids.
I thought that's what strikes were before.
Initially, that was the idea, that they were basically dungeons, but now they've added official dungeons,
Okay, that's cool.
and it just always feels like strikes aren't that rewarding. Like, I would have loved to see like unique armor sets for strikes, or things that you can only do in strikes. It just, for the longest time, for me, I
don't even think that's...
It always felt like they were just skippable, and it wasn't efficient to grind them out. I don't know. Aside from like dailies and
To me,
weeklies and...
the problem with strikes is they don't feel enough different from each other. Like, they are different, and they do have mechanics, but I think they would actually benefit more by leading into a little bit more complex mechanics, because a lot of them just kind of feel like you do a strike and your team is just running through as quickly as possible, and you just don't care about anything. Like, I think they need to emphasize mechanics a little bit more in strikes. And I get that they don't want to, like, scare people away, but I don't know. I think they feel a little too samey.
Yeah.
Something that I think kind of hurts the massive feeling of Destiny for me is you just
ship?
like... No. You like just select a location from a menu and then go there.
I'm way down with that.
I want more of a feeling of like traveling between
absolutely.
places where it's like, oh, I want to go do a strike down there. Okay, well, I better get in the ship and then make my way down there. And obviously, like, that could be super cumbersome as well. But that is something about Destiny that's always kind of bugged me, is there's a lot of just like fast traveling back and forth, and it doesn't really feel like this massive universe. But hey, this game came out on PS3
That
and 360.
is so wild.
They were working with limitations. Yo, there are
People
still
hanging
people
around.
playing Destiny on PS4. These are real players.
They're just making retrospectives.
They're all doing past gen series. Clearly, they're all content creators.
This is cool seeing this area here, Ben, because in Destiny 2, the prologue, this place is under attack right here. So that's kind of fun.
What's your favorite weapon type, Huber?
Love autos. Love
Autos are
love scouts. Love scout rifles.
I like scouts too. That's the thing about Destiny is I feel like I pretty much like most of the weapons. I really like hand cannons quite
Yeah,
Super
me
fun.
too.
Fuck, what do I want? Brandon, you're gonna pick.
Yeah, let Brandon
what
pick.
weapon what am I gonna get? An auto rifle, pulse rifle, scout rifle, or hand cannon?
I want you to be happy, man. Hand cannon, if that's what you like.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm an assault
Look at
guy
that.
myself, but I ain't playing.
Papa Jones.
Papa Jones.
Huber, you want to know where my love of handguns comes from.
Trigun.
In college, a friend of mine and I played all of Resident Evil 5, and I just focused on the handgun and upgraded the handgun, and like that was like my role, and we were just pumping that thing up as much as we could.
That's really jolly.
I feel like I've just been kind of had a penchant for handguns ever since. I would love if these games were self-aware to the point where they're like, "What? Why are you playing this? Like, why are you playing Destiny 1? You know there's Destiny 2, right?" Like, I'd love for a vendor to crack
funny.
a joke like that.
I think a lot of the love for 1 over 2 comes from Vault of Glass. I know that's still considered the best raid.
Really? The first one?
Yeah, it's so sick.
It's considered the best by a lot of people? Whoa.
I know Ryan Stevens was way into
Vault of Glass is amazing. It's the best thing to gear up for, man. Like a raid. It has been done before, but to me it is, you know, if it's not broken, don't fix it. It is perfect game design. It is, do all this stuff, and at the end of the tunnel you can do this thing that not everybody commits to, and it is like the best content in the game. You are rewarded so heavily. It is in Destiny 1, it is legitimate, like before Taken King, obviously, but like even after, the Vault of Glass is the best stuff in the entire game. That's so crazy to me.
Something that's huge, that is controversial, but you can't matchmake for Destiny.
Yes!
You have to put in the work to find the group to do it. And the other thing that I really like about Destiny raids is this like sense that you're not just doing it for the gear. Like obviously the gear is part of it, but you're doing it to see the raid. And I love that. I love when I'm, because that's kind of the problem with strikes, right? I feel like I'm just doing strikes to get to the end or to check something off a list. Whereas doing a raid, it's like, no, I
just want to see. I want to go in there and I want to see it.
Why? These people are playing Destiny 1.
What's going on, man?
Everywhere we go.
Purists.
All right. We're starting a Destiny 1 campaign.
I'm pretty impressed that these servers are still online.
I like that. The day that Destiny 1 goes offline is going to
be a sad day.
I feel like we're going to losing a piece of history.
Yeah. It's
the community will
it's impressive.
Well, was that a rumor? Was that official from Bungie when they said there's probably not going to be a Destiny 3? They're like, that was a lesson we learned, that this is just dumb. Like we should just be building on and supporting.
Maybe,
I think they did say that, Jones. It's going to be a long time before we see Destiny 3.
But you can't do that forever.
Yeah.
Like
You could just keep adding expansions, I guess.
But basically, the world is watching. Is kind of what I mean. That like, it speaks to how big Destiny is. That if they make a declarative statement like that, everyone listens and will probably shift what they're doing based on what Bungie's going to do.
I just want to point out this room because this is actually something that I did with Knack. Is when we were playing and I was like, man, look at how like kind of nondescript this was. I love Destiny. Destiny at its best is able of conjuring so much atmosphere. Like just look at this room and how lived in it feels, and just like the lighting.
The lighting
how
helps.
effective
Go
it
in that
is.
hole back there, though. We'll see an invisible barrier, right?
Yeah, I'm sure.
In here.
Oh no!
Nice. Look at this.
Oh, look at this. I mean, I'm sure we could find examples.
This is cool,
of
though.
Similar things like this. Yeah.
Playing Metro right now?
Yeah. Metro, dude. I totally expected like a barrier to be right there.
Yeah. Destiny was like, nah.
No.
This is why people still play me, Huber.
Yeah.
Are you in for Beyond Light, Huber?
Day one, baby.
Nice.
See, I really want to
There you
be,
go.
but there's so much happening next month that like I don't know where I'm going to find time for half the things I want to play.
Things get me going dopamine-wise as much as the launch of something multiplayer related. Like launch day.
Okay, Huber.
The window closes quick.
True.
Huber, here's what's happening next month. 2 new consoles are launching. A new Yakuza, a Demon's Souls remake, Spider-Man Miles Morales,
Cyberpunk.
So much of that is
2077.
single player though.
Scanning for the warp drive.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, all that stuff is huge.
But Beyond Light is just an expansion. It'll be small-ish.
I hope.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Like I'm definitely gonna hop in
So
launch
you're,
week.
so you're saying you're just gonna go through the story?
Dip in.
Play for like a week or two.
I mean, I'll definitely
Probably.
like gear up for the raid. I love doing the raids when expansion.
Do the raid like once or twice, and you'll probably be good for a little bit.
Exactly. Casually committed.
Casually committed, dude.
It is kind of nice playing this Destiny 1 when a new expansion for Destiny 2 is right around the corner. And just having that contrast between where it is now and
It's wild.
where it was.
So many opinions on this game.
It's in the walls.
Would you say this game has the most opinions?
The most opinions.
The most opinions?
I don't know.
No, that's clearly Just Dance.
Huber, though, I think that is something that really works to Destiny's favor, is even if you hated this game, you were talking about it. And I think Destiny, because of that, just never really left the conversation. Like, you would read all these articles about, like, the problems that Destiny was having, but I think it just, like, kept it, like, games would kill for that. So many games, like, there's so many games coming out that, like, even great ones kind of get left in the dust a month after release. And so to be able to kind of have the staying power that Destiny did, even if it was for negative things, I think is remarkable.
Good headshots, man.
Gotta get those headshots, gotta get the yellow numbers.
I'm pleased with this gun. This was a good
Yeah,
choice.
Jones.
Yeah. It's so, just the gun sound, like every pull
Very
of
good,
the
yeah.
trigger
Every
sounds
pull of
so
the trigger.
good. Yo, Huber, when I was playing Destiny 2, I was doing the Thorn quest line, the exotic, and for one of the challenges, you had to get like so many kills in multiplayer, and like people are so fucking
So
insane
good.
at Destiny
Yeah.
So
multiplayer
good.
now. It's just like, it's like
We got a warp.
you feel demoralized. You
Yeah.
just like
No
come
chance.
on.
No chance,
Come on.
dude.
No chance now, dude.
No chance. Do you think this game has the most metas?
No. No, I don't.
That's super funny. The most meta.
I feel like the meta is always changing in this thing, dude.
Do you think this game has
Yeah,
made
but-
the most people frown?
Top 10 most metas.
Yep.
I mean, it's constantly changing, but a lot of games are constantly changing,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Like, is it more or less than other comparable things?
Like I'm thinking
I
like
don't know,
Path
maybe.
of Exile, how crazy
Yeah,
amount of shit there is
I
in
also
that game.
thought of Path of Exile too. All right, I think it's a shame because with a game like this, we have not scratched the surface at all.
Right.
But
That was good, though.
You know, dip it
that was
in.
good.
dipping in a little bit to
I
this.
just want to call to attention though, Ben, how you instinctively just went and like upgraded to like pieces
Yeah,
of equipment for no reason
Yeah.
whatsoever.
I'm never going to use this character probably ever again, and I had to do it,
That's so
right? Like,
good.
have to make the numbers go
So
up.
good.
Yep.
So that is actually going to do it for this episode of Gen That Was 2014. Thank you so much to Brandon, Brad, and Michael Huber for talking about all this stuff,
Yeah.
revisiting this stuff. Doing this year by year has been really fun.
Yes.
Hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and we will see you in the next one whenever that is ready.
This is the Gen That Was.